Alright, welcome back. In the last video, we got started with creating another audit or security testing config. We wrote bunch of Ruby code to understand and execute the test for our storage account. We got started with a minimal storage account, and then we created we tested a bunch of properties of our storage account, and also we understood how you can refer to documentation and then start writing your audits and configs. So, however, if you notice, we did a bit of manual work by feeding in the variables. Now, these variables were feed it manually, and we don't want to do it manually. The entire process has to be automated. If you're running your creating or managing your infrastructure using Pulumi or Terraform, you want to make sure that as soon as your infrastructure is created or some minor changes has been done, your testing should be automatically run within the pipeline or script, rather than you going ahead and manually feeding in the config file. That's not going to happen if you have a bigger infrastructure or if you've got a bigger team. Manual feeding is not recommended. So what we're going to do is, if you remember, we used our jumpstart Terraform repo to create bunch of resources, which included the virtual machines, network, storage account, DNS, CosmoDB, and what a lot of resources which we generally going to do it in our real infrastructure. So we're going to use that, and we're going to use the output file. So we created infrastructure, and those infrastructure are created right over here, which includes your virtual machines and things like that. So if you type in Terraform output, you would see that it has given all the output, the values of your resources. What I'm gonna do is I am going to get the output, Terraform output, in a JSON format. That's how the output looks like. I'm going to save it in a variable, probably terraform.json. Alright, that's been saved. If I just enlarge this one little, I should have a terraform.json file. Yeah, here you go. If I just copy the content and come back to my inspecc repo, what I'm gonna do is I am going to create one more folder that's gonna be files, and underneath the files we're gonna have a file name as terraform.json, and that's gonna have all the content. So it's just simple JSON with all the values of Terraform output. So what we're gonna do now is we go back to our control file, storage account, and what we're gonna do is we are going to use a variable called content, and we're gonna pass it with inspecc dot, we're gonna call the profile and dot file, and then the name of the file is Terraform. Make sure there's no typo .json, and we're gonna parse this JSON. So we're gonna use a params variable, use the JSON identifier, and gonna parse the JSON. What we're gonna parse? We are going to parse the content variable, which has the terraform.json as variable signed. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna just comment this one out, and if you were to define a variable, what we're gonna do is in the resource group, and we're gonna call the values from the from our JSON files. So if you go back to our JSON file right over here, resource group, so we know that our resource group was created with the name as rg name, which you defined in your Terraform code. If you go to the output, and if you see that your output name is rg for your resource group, so you pick up the resource group name, go back to your file, audit file, what you do is you start with the params and then name of your output, which is going to be rg name, and what do you want to pick up? You want to pick up the value out of all. So you have got sensitive, type, and value. What you want is the value. So if you go back again, we want another variable which is called as name. So what I'm gonna do is type in the name, storage account, same params, and look for the storage account variable. If you just search storage account, you see right over here the storage account and the storage account dot value. So params, then the storage account, and then the value. Alright, that's how you you don't want to hard code any of these value. All you do is you just picking up directly from your output file. Now time to edit the input as well. You do input and then name of your input gonna be name, could be any name, then the value, same way params, and then the storage, and then value. Alright, this looks good. If I now run inspecc, okay, so it's gonna be inspecc exec my profile hyphen target Azure. Hit run and let's see what it has for us. Alright, I just started a new terminal, so I'll have to export the variables again. So I'm gonna do that right away. Alright, I've exported the variables. Now I'm going to run the exec command again. And just wait for it to scan the profile. So it has started to run all of the tests for us. So if you see that it has already ran few of the tests, it says that bunch of error. Now it says that let's probably run through all of the error once again. The storage account is expected. Okay, we did not remove the variables from here, so what we need to do is edit the storage account variable, which we have defined it with the previous one. So we're going to remove it and we're going to replace with the variable name, which we have already defined. Rerun our test and see how it is able to run the test or not. So it's still scanning all your config files, whatever config files you have. So you see that now you have got 10 successful tests and 2 got failed because your expected location is East US, however it got North Europe. That's because our new resource group is in a North Europe region, and there's one more test which is about the tags. So probably let's try to fix the tag one. What we're gonna do is we are going to use the Azure tagging feature. We're gonna go back to our storage account, and what we're gonna do is add bunch of tags to our storage. We're gonna come over right over here, and we're gonna make sure that we have a tag called owner, which we already have. Now what we're going to do is we are going to remove the it should have tags and write that its tags, the value of its tag should include include owner as Shan. Now if you try to rerun it again, and wait for a few seconds, and you see that now it has gone from 10 to 11 successful test. The tags are kind of works fine. Now if you just replace the location one, you could just use location either. So what happens is generally sometimes people change things manually, so either instead of doing that, you could always just use the the variables which is kind of not hard coded and kind of coming up from your Terraform or whatever config you have written. So even if you're using PowerShell or Bash, you can always have those variables, these variables which we have got from the JSON, convert them into JSON and use them as the input for the inspec files. Alright, that's how you can kind of automate the entire process. You didn't have to do anything manually. Whatever manual entries we had, we just removed it, and now you've got end-to-end automation suite coming from right from your spinning up your infrastructure using your Terraform code, and then right after that you could have your inspec file running your automation testing. Alright, that's about it. I hope this was informative. Thank you.